tell me a little bit about your story. You had a background in the military, came from the Marine Corps, then came to civilian life. Did you go straight into this and buy into a franchise? Like, what did that transition look like? What's your story?
Yeah, I had a long and storied career in between there, doing a host of different things. I was actually a corrections officer in the Marine Corps, so a military police officer, having no bearing on my career path or success.
Just in the last couple of years, what do you attribute kind of growing that fast to? Is there anything from your background in the military or on the sales side? Like, how are you finding people? How are you growing this quick?
If I had to attribute it to one thing, I do think it's hyperscaling was the kind of goal as we came in. We really had this vision of how rapidly can we leverage the tools and assets we have available to us.
I think a lot of people struggle when they're like, yeah, mentor. Well, I want a mentor, but who wants to mentor me? And like, can they find a mentor? So like, how did you go about it? And how do you maybe advise someone else that's maybe a little earlier on that doesn't have that to kind of do that?
There are a suite of different individuals you can go out and pay for this mentorship. There are some great ones out there, and I think.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Superpro Podcast. I'm Roland Ligtenberg, and I am the co-founder of Housecall Pro. Since 2013, we've been on a mission to champion the trades and champion our pros, because the work you do keeps our homes safe, comfortable, and communities running. Through Housecall Pro, I've had the privilege of supporting hundreds of thousands of pros just like you, helping you all empower you and stress less and redefine success in our industry. Today, I'm super excited. We've got Damian Schlereth, who owns the franchise location GeForce Parking Lot Stripes of Denver and Pink Cores in Denver West. He does expert asphalt, specialty coating services in Arvada, Colorado. He's on track to hit 1.25 million in revenue in 2025, and he's running a crew with 5 team members and a fleet of 6 vehicles. His vehicles are cool. He even has like a Humvee and a military truck in his fleet. We're probably going to ask him some questions about that too. He's modernizing the trades here. Damian, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well. Good morning, Roland. How are you?
Great. Tell me a little bit about your story. You had a background in the military, came from the Marine Corps, then came to civilian life. Did you go straight into this and buy into a franchise? Like, what did that transition look like? What's your story?
Yeah, I had a long and storied career in between there, doing a host of different things. I was actually a corrections officer in the Marine Corps, so a military police officer, having no bearing on my career path or success necessarily, but came out, used my GI Bill, got a degree, and entered into sales primarily. I've sold everything from beer all the way to advanced cybersecurity software in my last kind of run. Sales leadership was kind of the pinnacle of that sales career after about 15 years working in different positions as an individual contributor out in the field all the way to managing teams. Largest team was about 26 people spread over 7 states. So it was a pretty robust team at that point. Came out of the SVB bank failure, kind of tumultuous time period that existed a few years ago, and was looking for the next career, and on LinkedIn actually received a targeted ad for GeForce and was pretty immediately captivated. It was that definitely tangible, interesting looking thing on YouTube videos that hooked me on parking lot line striping. And so pursued that, did some due diligence, and here I landed at GeForce in the fall, almost 2 years ago now, 23, and then have expanded and added the additional franchise, the Pink Core franchise, all within the same network, all within the same brand network of veteran service brands. And so that brings us kind of to date. We wanted to add the Pink Core service offerings. We felt like that was a great addition to our portfolio.
Yeah, and those are definitely complementary. Is that kind of part of the choice, or is it because it's part of like the network and the franchise?
There are a few other brands we could have chose as well, but I think you hit the nail on the head, Roland. They're complementary. And we really have this vision of becoming the curb to rooftop solution for primarily commercial realtors and property management services, as well as some general contractors. And I think that the combined service offerings are niche while also being relevant. And I think that's kind of the sweet spot that we're trying to find.
Yeah, and I think for people that are thinking about either multi-trades or other types of trades that are complementary, I think, the hardest thing is getting the customer. Once you have that customer and you built up that trust, if you can do all, the striping on all the lots that they have and everything on the roof and all that, you can offer a much more robust service rather than having to go solicit a whole bunch of RFPs, a whole bunch of other bids and, do more insurance diligence on more contractors. You'd be like, no, we just offer that whole package. So I think clearly what you've done is working really quick. You've grown super fast, just in the last couple of years. What do you attribute kind of growing that fast to? Is there anything from your background in the military or on the sales side? Like, how are you finding people? How are you growing this quick?
If I had to attribute it to one thing, I do think it's hyperscaling was the kind of goal as we came in. We really had this vision of how rapidly can we leverage the tools and assets we have available to us. And maybe I'll walk that back to eat some humble pie there. It's really my mentors and the network that has given us the support that we need to be able to scale as rapidly as we have. And I've got some great mentors and friends within the Veteran Service Brands Network, the G-Force Network, if you will. Same as Paint Corps as well. And we've taken that support network with our hyperscaling model, i.e. we have just poured as many revenue dollars as possible into growth with a vision of the future and what that 3, 5, 10-year plan looks like through technology, through resources, through capital investment and machinery to make us more efficient or differentiate us, i.e. running a fully electric fleet on our parking lot line striping machines be a great go.
Wow.
Gets us a competitive advantage.
And it feels like, a lot of people are like, well, why don't I just start my own thing? Why do I go through like a franchise model or through like a network? But one of the things you attributed really quickly to the success is just like having a network of like mentors and other people that are building businesses and all within that Veteran Brands. How do you, is that kind of the totality of the people you network with? Do you have people from outside the network? Talk to me a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people struggle when they're like, yeah, mentor. Well, I want a mentor, but who wants to mentor me? And like, can they find a mentor? So like, how did you go about it? And how do you maybe advise someone else that's maybe a little earlier on that doesn't have that to kind of do that?
There are a suite of different individuals you can go out and pay for this mentorship. There are some great ones out there. And I think the modern business is so much more complicated, so much more convoluted in a lot of ways. And some of this is just societal with legal components that it just takes to navigating that alone. I have a block of time on my calendar weekly for legal tasks, but there are so many different components of the modern business that necessitate having outside in help. I'm not an unintelligent guy. I'm usually the hardest working person in the room while also trying to work hard, or work smart, but I have to leverage those other individuals within my network to be able to scale rapidly. Could I do it on my own, and do people work really hard and do it on their own? Absolutely. But it might take them 5 years to get to where we're at in year 2. So we can do it that much more rapidly by having that network and group of resources. And that's kind of how I've looked at the franchise network. It's twofold. I'm paying for a franchise. I pay a franchise fee, essentially. Sure. And that fee gets me territory and leads. And we have a national accounts team, and we get leads from Walmart and Amazon and TA travel centers. My crew's up in Wyoming right now doing TA travel centers there in the state. But more importantly, I have bought access to not just one coach, but 49, 50 other coaches that I can reach out and communicate with. And I do. I think that's the other thing is taking advantage of the knowledge that has been accumulated outside of my own immediate network has been revolutionary in our growth. It has hyper accelerated. And I also pursue other individuals, and I'm kind of constantly in that professional development pace. Once a week is my commitment. I'm reading a book, or I'm attending yet another webinar, or we're signing up to go to the PCA conference, Paint Contractors Association conference, yet again in the same year to just further our breadth and depth of knowledge, which I think is critical. So.
Yeah, look, I think the golden nugget you just shared is like you make a commitment every single week to advance yourself some bit. It could be a meeting, it could be a conference, it could be a webinar, it could be, a mentor network meeting, whatever it happens to be, but you're setting aside the time. And I think as a business owner, it's so easy to just get so enveloped in your own work and your own problems and your own things that you kind of stagnate. And then I think the other critical piece there is you seem really humble in your own skills, which makes it easier to realize there's other people out there that can do things better or are smarter than you or better in some other vector than you are. And you leverage that rather than trying to learn it yourself the hard way. Not that you couldn't, like you said, but it would just take you a lot longer. And so I think, for any kind of business that's trying to scale up and learn quicker, it's been done. These aren't new businesses. And there's people that know a lot to leverage that. And I think you've done that really well.
Ask questions and keep asking questions, and pursue more knowledge. And sometimes, Roland, it's even like when you're a new parent, hanging out with other new parents is enlightening because you hear all of the other things that they're experiencing, you're experiencing, and all the frustrations, heartache, and crying, and all the other components. And kind of same thing starting small businesses. It's like raising a kid. And hearing it from other people is alleviating in so many different facets. This is tough. I mean, there are definitely days you pull up in front of the shop and you want to sit in the truck and cry before you come inside because it's just all the stress is weighing down on you as the owner. And commiserate is kind of even just a small component. Is connect with other people in your situation, and whatever that connection looks like, make an effort to go do it because it really is impactful in your future success, your business's future success.
Yeah, I mean, look, starting a business is not only hard, but it's lonely and can be very frustrating at times. And not everyone's going to feel or know what that is like. Definitely not your employees, and those aren't things you should be sharing with your employees either. Maybe your spouse if they work for you, or work with you. But the reality is like it's pretty lonely. But like you said, being around others that have gone and are currently going through the same thing is not only a wealth of knowledge, but can allow you to like commiserate a little bit or share like wins or like little tips and like little things. My daughter's, 16 months now, and other people that are in a similar situation, they're like, oh, have you tried this? Or have you tried this? And it's like, oh yeah, sweet, that worked. I'd never thought of that. And like all of a sudden, learning accelerates, which is great because, we could have tried a million different snacks before. We found that watermelon is like, I don't know, the key to the thing. Who would have known? I mean, I love watermelon.
Those are the winner.
There you go.
I just this week, actually yesterday, I just got accepted to the PCA, which is again Paint Contractors Association veteran mentorship program. So I'm a proud new mentor of a new mentee that'll get assigned to me here in a day or two. And the whole idea is exactly in the same vein of making connections with similar individuals, similar backgrounds in this case, small business owners in the painting industry who are looking for help. And I'm very proud of that. I'm also very excited because I've found over time, especially being in sales leadership, that the fastest way to grow is to coach because you're constantly analyzing and evaluating and talking about your own processes and how you are trying to make them more efficient. And it just is like a constant reminder or refresh on your own systems and tools and all the other components. And it's for me, at least, the most pertinent and impactful way to grow, personally and professionally. And so that's, if you can join one of those programs, if you can find something similar, I think that's a key to success.
Yeah. And look, I think that's other just like an underutilized thing is being a mentor yourself. You may feel like you're not that far ahead, but I promise you're further ahead than some people that are out there. But when you learn to teach or show other people the way that you do things, like you said, Damian, is really good because you're like, wait, am I doing it the right way? Or what's my process? Or wait, I don't have the SOP for that. I can't share that up, man. Let me go make that. So I think, you're almost forced to, put things to paper or commit to memory, or if you can't teach it to someone else, you clearly don't understand what you're doing yourself anyways. So it's kind of a forcing function, which is really a clever way to continue learning, even if you're on the other side. You're not a mentee looking for a mentor, but your mentor looking to mentee someone, right? And I'd say too, there's a bunch of business owners even around you that probably would take you up for coffee or talking to them, because oftentimes you can learn a lot from mentees Maybe they're younger, maybe they're doing different things, maybe they're really good at social, and doing whatever, TikTok reels or creating content or who knows what. And those are things that you're not good at or you don't know about. So you can always still learn in reverse. So that's really good advice.
There's definitely a challenge component because I will get asked questions that I do not know the answer to. Social content creation is not in my wheelhouse. It's just not something I'm competent or comfortable with. But I do think, to your point, scrambling to ask ChatGPT what the answer to that question is, or being more candid and just saying I don't know the answer, but I'll find out and get back to you. I think is kind of the point. But that's certainly another component. And actually, maybe goes back to answering one of your initial questions, which is getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and just leaning into it. Marine Corps, we say embrace the suck. And a lot of it is embracing the suck in a lot of components. It doesn't all suck necessarily, but at least I think the phrase makes sense.
It's a good mindset to have, because if you ever start to feel comfortable, you're not growing fast enough and you're doing yourself a disservice. So it's a really good barometer for it's like, all right, you've plateaued. You got to go lift some heavier weight, right? You need to go do something else. It's not going to be all nice. At what point in building this did you go, all right, I need something like Housecall Pro to help me out? Was it right out of the gate? Was it shortly thereafter? Like, what was your decision moment, or what was in your mind when you're like, yeah, I need something like this?
You'll be pleased to probably hear that we are required to have Housecall Pro at our franchise level. So we have a little over 100 locations within all the network brands. So we came into Housecall organically. It was already kind of baked into our process, and including some price book information. Then I got to tweaking, would be the kind of the real answer to your question is, saw it, reviewed it, learned. I'm probably one of your support call team's favorite people to talk to. They know, some of them know me by name, quite literally, like, oh, hey, Damian, and push myself to learn that system and tool and customize as rapidly as possible to my own needs or wants.
Sure. Yeah. And I think, clearly for franchising things that are out there, it's important to have, an FSM, CRM, something so you can structure your business, and you don't get to that level without having a system in place. So I couldn't imagine how you'd build it without that. But then, like Damian said, even if you do get it and you're required to use it or whatnot, it's a tweaking and customizing it, because still processes run differently between different franchises. And so you might get some templates, like Damian mentioned, like price books and those things kind of pre-built out, et cetera. But still, like, you got to own the doing of the things in the system. I know you're a pretty big pipeline user. Tell me about that. And how would you describe to someone who's never used pipeline before? Like, how would you talk about it?
My sales estimator, project consultant, new title we're rolling out for him, always gives me grief and kind of jokingly complains that I have bad analogies, but I liken it to the mess of sticky notes, of which I am bad about. Pipeline is your messy sticky note wall or board or whatever function that you're using to track down who called in, when, where, why, how, and where they're at in the life cycle of whether they're a lead or you sent an estimate or do we have a job scheduled, and it condenses, coalesces all of those different stages, the life cycle of that lead into a customer and into hopefully a repeat customer throughout the process, and gives you the functionality to be able to clearly and definitively track where they're at and what your action and engagement has been with them to date. Cheat a little bit there, Roland, because I come from a sales background and I was the SME subject matter expert on a couple of different platforms, and HubSpot, Salesforce, et cetera, et cetera. But, so it wasn't, I was natively kind of attuned to understanding and utilizing it, but I constantly am working with our project consultant on updating content and data within the individual pipeline cards, moving leads throughout effectively and efficiently to own the lead throughout the life cycle, and to move them rapidly through the life cycle so that we can maximize revenue from them as well.
Close more business. Yeah. And keep track of it. I think, look, a pipeline is one part organization and the other part automation. And so one part is the organization, which is like have all the columns, and there's some pre-built ones, and but each business can create different columns too, columns that make sense. I've spent a lot of time in different home service businesses shops where they just have a whiteboard and they literally have stickies, and they move them from left to right. That's what a Kanban board is, or folders, that hang from the wall, and they just have the sheets in the folders and they move them from like left to right, from, to sale to production to collection. But it is that. And then if you want to, you turn on the automation. So, if you're doing a lot of, in your words now, like consultations or project consultations or estimates, whatever it is, and you have to follow up on a lot of them, and you have to have it in a sequence, oftentimes you're not going to get the yes on the first try. You try, but the reality is it might be, on the fourth ask, and it might be 4 months later, when things just line up and it's no longer busy season for them, and it's maybe low season for you. And so those two things are what are really unique about having those two things within pipeline rather than as kind of like separate things.
I just yesterday updated our pipeline automation language, both within our SMS and our email chains. I'm constantly kind of tweaking and playing with it, and we actually get great conversion on repeat business on our jobs pipeline automations, and sending a follow-up from the owner 6 weeks after a job completion, like, hey, just checking in, wanted to make sure, we did what we said we were going to do. And now that you're happy, with our product, is there anything we can do for you as well? So, constant tweaking and playing, I think, is also a key component of our success.
Totally. And the little golden nugget there, which you said, which seems completely obvious, but not enough people ever do, is like, is there more work we can do for you? That's it. You don't ask, you don't get. And it sounds like classic salesmanship and whatever, but it truly is. If you've done a good job on that first job, why aren't you doing more jobs for them if you've got the capability to do it? Or they may know somebody that needs to have work done. So I think just asking helps kind of fire that neuron, and it often makes the difference between a very successful business and then just like a good business. A very successful business will always ask for more business. It seems stupid simple, but it is, because it is. What other, like, what's another feature that you would say is something that you're like, about now that you've used it long enough that you're like, I should have been using this right out of the get-go and configured it? What's like, piece of advice there, maybe for a new Housecall Pro user, where you're like, you got to look out for this thing, use it from the get-go?
Early on, and this is during our ramp at GeForce, as we were still attending our own internal trainings at GeForce, and traveled to Florida, and we've got some downtime in the winter time, early spring when it's still snowy. I had spent some time with one of your, again, support individuals. I'm not a blue chat bubble fan. I like calling. It's just my nature. So I've got the support number saved on my phone, and I'm constantly saying, hey Siri, hit button 2 and ask for support. But I had uncovered the flat rate pricing component of the price book. So twofold to that point. Templates have been massively successful in expediting estimates out the door, and we're often beating our competition just on return call. We're beating them to the door with an estimate in hand because of that. So building templates, and then building out our flat rate pricing model with labor rates and material price books, so that our service price book is relatively accurate when we come to gross profit margin, and we can sell more rapidly, more accurately, and then track that as well. Yep. And that has significant and deep impact into our bottom line and our profit and loss review, and how we manage the business, how we sell it. I would say we're actively reviewing what our GPM looks like that is being automatically produced by Housecall Pro's price book at the bottom of every estimate. We can kind of use that to gauge how we're landing with each customer, and whether or not they're price sensitive and flexible, and have opportunity to go up or down the scale as we see fit.
Yeah, and I think these are definitely advanced features, I would say, and advanced business concepts in general. But as you break that 7-figure mark on your way to like an 8-figure mark as a business, you have to make sure you're selling jobs that are worth doing. And one way that you can ensure that is by building flat rate pricing and building that within your price book, so that even your sales estimator that may not know, the ins and outs of P&Ls and all these types of things, when they are creating them and using templates, the things that they're creating by default will be at least of some profitability level that's acceptable to the business. And then maybe you build some checks and balances where, if they ask for a discount, they can give X amount of discounts within a period of time, and they can really, judge which customer needs it as a an objection to getting the work done versus the ones that are just classically trained to ask for discounts all the time. But anyways, if you have that all built in, it will show up inside a Housecall Pro for you out of the gate. You can see and you can go like, all right, what's my gross profit margin like on these jobs? And do I have any little wiggle room for this customer or not? Or is this truly like, our target is 20, our target is 30, our target is 40, and whatever it is on these jobs, you can stay within that.
Roland,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Started even more simply than that because I wasn't that experienced or knowledgeable yet. I hadn't really reached that tipping point of understanding how impactful it was going to be. It really started with, I don't want to build this business around me being the world's best line striper. That wasn't the initial goal. And I acknowledged, especially even within my peer group here at GeForce, that there's a lot that lives within the brain of each owner and is not translatable to scalable models. And how do I kind of download or data dump how to estimate effectively and turn it into a repeat scalable model where I can bring in a new estimator, I can coach and train them within 4 to 8 weeks ish on all the intricacies and variables that exist in a parking lot, for example, which most people don't have any clue. And do that rapidly. And it started there. It really was like, how do I just break this down and make this simple enough that I can kind of plug and play? Here's 50 stalls in a parking lot, hit 50. And it's grown from there and turned into this own mini beast that lives on its own in the price book. But that was the initiation into price book, was really just wanting to make it as simple as I could so that I could have other people do it. And it's a happy byproduct and accident altogether.
I think that's a great golden nugget, which is like, you being the world's best estimator or you being the world's best producer, or executor things. That's not going to inevitably grow your business. It's going to be your ability to translate that into something simple enough for someone else to click a couple buttons and it's going to work, out of the box. That has little to no experience because, if you're going to be growing a quick team, you're probably going to have a hard time finding people that just specialize in painting lines in parking lots. But you can probably train them, if they've got the right attitude and the right kind of fortitude to do that kind of stuff. Speaking of people, where are you finding good people and how quickly are you able to onboard them into Housecall Pro? Like, what does that process looks like? Maybe from like job post to interview to hire to like training to like fully using it up and running.
I think probably most small businesses where it's a little bit of everything as far as sourcing candidates. So my foreman was a friend of a friend who was looking for a job and was kind of, I should not say happy accident because he's a very intelligent, hardworking, and great fit for us type individual who's grown with us from crew member now into foreman and kind of field superintendent, who indeed is one of our primary sources. Word of mouth, Indeed, Facebook, even we posted on Facebook and found candidates. We've driven down the street and all of our vehicles are wrapped. They're very noticeable. They have kind of Cami Digi wrap and hire event and Marine Corps logos, all sorts of fun things on them. But we've had people on the street ask us if we're hiring and have hired some subcontractors from that in the Home Depot parking lot, for example. So a little bit of everything. We hire fast, we hire slow. We tend to fire fast. When we do hire, we're decisive. We bring in the right person, not necessarily the skill set. We do believe, kind of to your point previously, that we can train people relatively rapidly. We have outside resources, so we can send and do send our new employees to other states or send them out with other crews for training as well, as well as internal training and hiring. We run, especially for our salaried employees, our sales estimators or lead striping techs, a 90-day ramp period with a fairly well-structured checklist training onboarding and training playbook that has broken down day by day, what you're learning, what sections you're going to, you kind of move in. And we have check-ins during that time period. So we're kind of doing eval, Quizlet type motions. We use Trainual, which is a SOP and training warehouse for information. So that helps. And again, that comes from veteran service brands. So we have access to some of those tools that normally we probably would not have engaged at this stage, but we get to leverage those. So.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to like, how are you able to scale so fast? And you're using tools, that are advanced enough for really big companies to be able to use and leverage. And you're giving that to yourself early on, which makes a lot of sense, and which is, clearly how you've been growing so fast. What's something maybe that now that, you tell Damian 10 years ago? What did you tell your younger self if you were the mentor and baby Damian coming out of the Marine Corps? Like, what would you tell him?
Well, coming out of the Marine Corps is more like 20 years ago now. Quite a long time ago now. Next March actually will be 20 years since I got out of the Marines. But if I wind the clock back, it would be to evaluate my P&L statement, profit and loss statement, more succinctly, definitively, in depth, understand the mechanisms of the business more. I also would probably smack myself pretty hard around cash flow management and savings, and to operate as if I was always operating in deficit, because the winters are tough in a seasonal business. So save, be a squirrel is probably what I would tell myself. And those two things they're just not things that, unless you are working in finance, you have a lot of exposure to frequently. And my wife, to be honest, is our saver. She is the saver. I'm the spender in our relationship personally. And ironically, she's also my business partner at GeForce. So she's our saver at GeForce now. So we've worked hard this year, especially to get our ducks in a row, to model a profit first methodology. It's kind of currently what we're running, which is running 5 checking accounts and 2 savings accounts, and doing weekly P&L review and monthly roll-up P&L review with our bookkeeper, and staying on top of things and not letting them slide, and not celebrating top line revenue because it's just a vanity number, hill of beans. That would be number one, going back in time to day one Damian.
That's great advice. Yeah, he just Damian casually mentioned profit first, but if you're curious about that, Mike Michalowicz, I can never say his last name right. Hopefully I said it right. But anyways, he's got a great book on it, and it's just allocating your profit essentially before covering other expenses, because oftentimes people will just cover all the expenses and there's no profit left. So if you build that in first, then you're able to take a better look, especially if you're saving some of that profit. Like Damian just mentioned, for lower seasons, shoulder seasons, winter months, when things get rough, you still want to keep good people employed. Clearly, Damian uses a mix of W-2 and subcontractors, and so you can scale up and scale down on different projects and things. But independent of that, most businesses, if you're spending a lot of time finding and training good people, you want to keep them on board always, period. So you got to account for that stuff, even through the slower months. But profit first is a great mentality, and making sure you understand your own P&L. Like Damian said, the top line revenue number is always just a vanity number. You can look at it, but celebrating it is, a little foolish if, you're running a negative net profit, for example, right? And so that's really not the core number you should be looking at as the owner itself. This has been super awesome. Are there any other last words of wisdom or shout outs you want to give here before we wrap up, Damian?
Shout out to the Housecall Pro support team for being my own personal answering service when it comes to support questionnaires. I beat them up. Certainly they deserve every bit of credit through the ups and downs and stresses of a season or 2 seasons. I have to call out my team at GeForce too. And again, going back to some of our earlier conversations, is the support network that I have there professionally and personally has been a game changer and a real differentiator for our success. And all the opportunity that I've gotten really comes down to, my family and what they've given me over, this last 2 years of hard work and dedication and a lot of risk. So take some risks, trust the networks that you have available, lean on, I should say, reach out to support all the time. Save that number in your phone. Make it your own. No one's going to do this work for you. It's quite literally on your shoulders as an owner to take that entrepreneurship and empower yourself to make things in your own image. And just keep working. Keep getting after the good work that is hard and sometimes is difficult to do, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well said, Damian. Thank you so much for coming on the Superpro Podcast. For everyone else that's listening, if you're using Housecall Pro, great. If you've got questions, you always reach out to us, the support team, like Damian said. If you're not using Housecall Pro, you want to take a look at it, you can always go to housecallpro.com/podcast deal. If you don't want to fill out a form and do a demo, you can always text me direct. It's my cell, 858-215-1512. As always, we've got special guests on every single week. Damian, thank you for being on the show this week and look forward to another show next week. See y'all later. Bye, Damian.
Thanks, Roland.
The Superpro Podcast is brought to you by Housecall Pro, the leading platform for the home service industry. Housecall Pro streamlines your workflows and simplifies everything from scheduling and dispatching to communication and billing. Unlock the full potential of your home service business with Housecall Pro. Work smarter and more efficiently with streamlined workflows and detailed analytics. Win more business and serve your customers well, every single time. Join more than 40,000 home service pros who have already revolutionized their businesses. Work smarter with streamlined workflows, get organized with centralized information, and scale your business your way. Learn more at housecallpro.com.